Hey guys, it's Day here, back at it with another SMITE tier list. Today we're doing SMITE or patch 420. Yes, this patch, this very special patch, the meme patch, if you will. Yeah, and KUZENBO, of course, is going to SS as usual. Nothing new here. But let's begin with the tier list, shall we? First up is Agni. Agni, always gonna be an A tier. Okay, please, my dude. Thank you. A tier. He's an A tier god. Does the A tier things that an A tier god needs to do. He's got an ultimate for poke. He's got a good clear. Requires level 5 to be really good though, but he's got good poke, good clear, good CC, just good all around. Nothing too like super over the top. But it's Agni. What are you gonna expect from this dude? Next up is Amaz. He's seeing a bit of a rise, especially since in the dual lane, it's less likely that the jungler will gank. However, AMC does get camped a lot of the times, but he's not too bad right now. He's pretty decent actually. He does what hunters do, not the greatest because, like I said before, he has no escape. It's really hinders a lot of gods in this game, but he has no escape. But he does have good clear. He has the attack speed steroid. He's got the movement speed from his hives. His hives are really great. Just gotta work on that escapability kind of thing. Next up is Apwash. Apwash is bad. His only thing that he brings is burst and some kind of anti-heal. It's not like lowering the heal, but like it discourages healing. However, no one's gonna play Apwash for that because really people only play him for the burst, and the burst doesn't warrant the amount of risks you take when you play Apwash. You can build him tanky. I don't know. That might be the way people start playing him, but right now, it's really not worth it because you have no mobility, and no mobility hurts a lot of gods in this game. Apwash being one of them. Next up is Amaterasu. She's pretty good. She got buffed recently. I don't think she's going to be rising too much. Just a little bit of a cooldown buff and a little bit of a mana buff. Nothing too major, you know. But it's Amaterasu, so, it's pretty good. All these auras, her passive is an aura, her one's an aura. She's got damage mitigation on her 2. She's got really nice ultimate for CC in team fights. She's a very team fight focused god. Her early game's kind of bad though, so watch out when you're playing Amaterasu. Next up is On Her. He's pretty strong. He's a hunter. He does hunter things. He doesn't work with the crit devils build as much as other hunters, so I don't think he'll be seeing too much play. He's got that ultimate though, and he's also got the Pillar Impale combo early game. Really hurts. It's just that other hunters right now dominating the scene, my dude. Next up is Anubis. Anubis, I don't know. He's better than Apwash, but he's still pretty bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's better than Apwash. I would play Anubis over Apwash any day, but he's still not the greatest. He's got 2 abilities that make him completely stop moving. It just roots him in place. That's really scary for God with no mobility. So if you use those abilities out of position, you're gonna die because your stun only hits 1 target, and if there's more than 1 target on the enemy team, that's a yikes. Especially since if you're using those abilities, you probably already used your stun, so the best thing you have for peel is your 3, which you've probably also already used. It's just not fun for Gubis. He does have some sustain with the built-in lifesteal though. Ao Kwang taking a hit this patch. The poly hit might hurt him a good amount. Poly was a really strong item on him, in my opinion, not core, because he's got, I mean, you could say core, yeah, basically core, but now it can't be core because it's not nearly as good. But, Ao Kwang still is going to do good because he's got that execute. Other items might come into play, like Ethereal Staff, maybe Soul Reaver Ethereal might come. Not nearly as much burst as Soul Reaver Poly, but it's still a decent amount of burst, and it also gives him some survivability. But not surprised to see a Kwang nerf. He really kind of needed it, especially with the current way he's been performing. Next up is Aphrodite. She is cool and all. She's got some tits. That's about it. She's got some healing, really strong healing. You have to get to that point, though. It's really hard to get to that point because you're gonna get a lot of early game pressure taken away from you when you play Afro. She really lacks early game pressure, and thus it's gonna take a lot longer for her to get to late game. But once you do get her there, she's gonna put in the finest. It's just you gotta get there. Next up is Apollo. Apollo is pretty coolio. He's got the attack speed stim in his passive, and it's a really strong attack speed stim. It's the strongest in the game, I think. So that's really gonna help him out. However, it's only for 5 basics, so like you can win boxing matches. It's just like only 5 basics, so you better do a lot. Which is good because he works with the Crit Devils build pretty nicely. So not only that, but his global presence is there with his ultimate. Arachne is pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie, she's pretty bad. Nothing really makes her that good right now, and there's really no reason to play her. Some people might find some cool tricks with her webs, like putting it out and then soloing your speed and whatnot, but like it's not really worth it because Arachne really needs that early snowball, early kill, and if she doesn't get it, she doesn't do much because her late game team fight is not that great. It's really not. It's nothing too good at all. You can try singling it out of target, but it's like the Loki syndrome where once you do that, what are you gonna do? You can do that, and that's about it. Excuse me. So yeah, she's got that Loki syndrome kind of. Her ultimate's good for escaping, good for engaging, but you can't use it for both. Her webs are good for engaging, and good for escaping, but not good for both. She's got that Loki syndrome. She has a lot of single target, but nothing else. Aries. Aries' ultimate is pretty strong right now. However, Aries himself it's okay. He can cripple people. That's pretty cool. And he also can do a lot of damage, so that's pretty cool. His wave clear is atrocious, so you're not going to win early pressure through that. You're going to have to play super aggressive with Aries. And that's why I don't see him too high, because you need specific team comps to work with him. You need either a super aggressive hunter or a super clear heavy hunter, because Aries himself has very little clear, but he's got a very high aggression. So get a good hunter to pair with him, and you got a pretty decent dual lane, especially since his team fight is pretty strong. Next up is Artemis. Artemis is about the same as AMC currently. In my opinion, a little bit better because of her ultimate and the fact that it gives a stun and gives her CC immunity. Her 2 gives her movement speed and one of the better attack speed stims, I think. Her passive's crit chance, so she automatically works well with the Crit Devils build currently in place. Executioner getting a nerf, so all hunters really getting a little bit of a ding, but not much. It's only 100 gold difference or something like that, 150 maybe. But yeah, Artemis is Artemis. She's got no escape, but she does have some CC to make up for it, and she's got a lot of basic attack damage. So get her to late game and hope that she doesn't get picked off, and you've got a good thing going for you. Artio. Artio is still pretty strong despite the nerfs. She might move down a tier. I don't know. However, she's still pretty strong. Probably one of the best guardians in the game currently. She is pretty much permabanned and ranked as well, so I don't know. She's still really strong. A lot of CC, a lot of sustain, a lot of damage. Just a lot, because her kit's so bloated right now. It's really hard to deal with her. She is better in solo than in support, though, so keep that in mind when picking her, playing against her. It's probably a solo RDO more than a support RDO. Next up is Asina. Asina is pretty good. Athena's got the 2-second taunt, always going to be a very, very useful factor for, ranking Athena. That 2-second taunt can never be slept on. It's one of the strongest CCs in the game. She also has global presence, so you've got 2 things that most other Guardians don't have. And not only that, but she can also play 3 roles decently. Support probably being her best, but she can also somewhat decently play jungle and solo. And that's pretty cool for a Guardian to say. One of the better CCs can play 3 roles, has a good amount of damage if played in the jungle or, solo role. Global ultimate, like I said before, it is global, so you've got pressure from one lane to another. Just all around a really strong god, in my opinion. Next up is a Wheelish. She's taking a bit of a hit. She took a bit of a hit, I think it was last patch, where her somersault, moonlight flip, or whatever it's called, I don't remember. Took a damage decrease, and that really hurt her early game. Her early game is now not that great, and that's her best part of the game, so that's gonna hurt her a lot. She is still decent because of her ultimate, and her 3 got small buff, but her 2, really, that 2 nerf might have been a bit too harsh, and thus she's suffering pretty heavily for it right now. She's not that great, but we'll see, we'll see. But so far, she's been not nearly as played as she used to be played. Was that even English? Maybe. Next up is Bacchus. Bacchus is pretty good. He's got that one of the best engages in the game with that belly flop. Belly flop burp, you know, it's pretty strong, not gonna lie. His ultimate does a lot of damage, so he himself as a god does a lot of damage. His passive gives him a good amount of damage reduction, so she's pretty bulky. His wave clear is not all that, though, similar to Aries, but in my opinion, he's a little bit better than Aries. Just not enough to put him in A+ tier. Excuse me. But it is Bacchus. Bacchus is strong. You can pick Bacchus. Just there are some better Guardian Bix currently that we'll get into later. Bakkasur, Arachne and Bakkasur are very similar, except Bakkasur is an ult bot, so he's really kind of bad because he is an ult bot. Once his ult's down, you can do whatever you want with anything really, because Bakkasur doesn't have any CC outside of his ultimate. The only thing he can do when he doesn't have his ultimate is hope that he can get close enough to left click long enough to kill you, so there's that. It's just not that great for Bacca currently. Maybe later, but right now, Bacca's not seeing anything new, anything good, and he is probably going to stay in the B tier. Next up is Bastet. Bastet is cool. She got a buff, I don't remember what patch, where her cats gave her power. It's a really weird buff, probably not going to affect her too much, but, you know, it might affect the playstyle, and maybe you can work around that. She does a lot of damage early game. Late game is not as great, because it's late game and she falls off late game, but she still has the cats. Early game especially, she's really strong. She can get that early game pressure, and thus, like, if you snowball hard enough, maybe win the game through that. Just a little bit, it's not the best late game, so you might want other assassins to take her place. Bellona. Bellona's pretty strong right now. I don't know how to rank her currently. She is pretty strong. She's in between A+ and S-. I feel like I'd be overrating her if I put her in S-. However, I'm going to put her there anyway. Actually, I'll put her in A+. Bellona's pretty strong right now. She's got the stun. She's got Bellona thing. She's always going to be strong. It's Bellona, for crying out loud. But I don't think she's as strong as some other gods currently. She definitely can be played. She's a very high-end A+ god, to say the least. Probably the best A+ god, depending on what goes there currently. I don't know. But, yeah, she's very strong, and do not sleep on Bellona. Never do that. I don't know why you would ever do that, but it's Bellona. And she's going to be an A+. She might move up to S- throughout this video. I do not know. Cabrakan. Cabrakan is pretty coolio. He's a guardian that does guardian things decently. He's got a stun. He's got some stuns. He's got the ultimate. He's a pretty cool dude, except, you know, he could play jungle and solo. It's just that, you know, he doesn't do either of those roles, like, super well. He requires a certain team comp to be fitted around, so he's only going to be an A tier. Camazotz. Camazotz is pretty cool right now. He's actually pretty strong. He's got sustain, a lot of sustain to say the least. His ultimate, like I said in my previous tier list, allows him to dive towers really effectively. It's really strong. I don't think I've said sustain enough, so I'm going to say sustain like 3 more times because his sustain is super strong. The bats, the pools, the leap, like 3 of his 5 technically, if you count the passive, give him some sort of like sustain. So really strong god in that sense. Falls off a bit late game though. The cool thing with him though is you can build a bruiser and be alright. Kurnanos is actually not like really busted. He's kind of busted, but like not like super broken because we've got other gods for that now. Kurnanos, he's got the 4 seasons. He's got the ultimate. He's just not seeing as much play because his early game is not as good as some other hunters that we'll talk about later. But he is pretty strong. Don't ever sleep on Kurnanos. His 1 is 4 items, so he might see a resurgence, but right now he's not as like super OP as he used to be, but he's still really strong. Chalk might be moving up from A minus. Recently, there have been a lot more successful chalks. I think it might be the play style. Play a little bit, get a little bit quicker rotations going through, like clear wave, go rotate, clear wave, go rotate, such as that, because the map is pretty small currently. That's a big flaw with Conquest. Hopefully, Hyris will touch that next season, but right now, it's pretty easy to rotate, and because Chalk can clear so effectively, he's going to be a little bit higher level, so if he can get an earlier impact before he starts falling off when it comes to damage, it's going to be really helpful for him, and thus, I think he's a little bit better than he used to be. Chunga is pretty strong. I hate fighting against this god, but I don't think she's super OP in any sense of the imagination. She's pretty strong. She's got healing. She's got damage. She's got that ultimate. She's got a free Aegis and beads, so always have to keep those in mind when playing against one, but I don't think she's anything like over the top right now, so she won't be picked too much. She won't be banned too much, but you'll see her around. Chiron's interesting. I haven't seen a Chiron since forever. He's decent. He's an ability-based hunter. He's really safe. That's a really good plus side for him. He's really safe. He can farm really well. The issue is, like I said, he's an ability-based hunter, so he doesn't work too well off the Crit Devils build. He can work with it, though. But he's okay. He's pretty good. You can play him. Kronos is pretty strong. I don't know. It's kind of the thing with Kronos, Sol, and Freya. They're always going to be fairly strong. The way Kronos is currently being played, he's being played in the mid lane more often now. And he's having quite a bit of success there, too. Not going to lie. He does a lot of damage. His basic attacks, he's got basic attacks and abilities. His tower pressure is really nice. His ultimate makes him really safe. Just all around pretty strong kit in general. Next up is Kokolin. No surprises here when I say he's an S. The nerfs are going to hurt him a little bit. His early game is going to be hit a little bit. But I don't know. He's still really strong. I think he's still permabanned and ranked, basically. So don't be surprised if you see Kokolin banned and ranked. He's just really dominant in the solo lane. His early pressure is really strong. Like I said, that transformation really puts him over the edge, to be 100% honest. And because of that, he's probably going to stay really high tier. Next up, we have Cupid. He's pretty good. He's got Chiron's kind of level of good. He's a bit better than Chiron, in my opinion, because of his CC, but he's about, when it comes to like playstyle, pretty similar to Chiron. They both are very safe hunters that just kind of stay in lanes, sustain up a bit, and just continue to farm. However, Cupid's ultimate is a bit better than Chiron's ultimate, in my opinion, especially for team fights, so he transitions better in the late game. He also has a stun on his first ability, so he's got more CC than, or more safe CC than Chiron, so in my opinion, better than Chiron, but still not good enough to be promoted to A+, but he can still be played pretty decently. Cupid's not that bad of a god. Daji, I don't know, dude. I haven't seen Daji like at all, to be 100% honest. She's pretty decent. The issue with her is she's got like that Najah syndrome, except it's harder for her to kill characters compared to Najah, because what she can do is she can leap in, or what I should say, she could use her ultimate, get some pokes, but it's really easy to get out of that ultimate if you have beads. Any sort of CC cleanse just completely negates her ultimate, which is really hard to deal with. Another issue with Daji is like when you commit, say you engage with your 3 and then you go use your 1 to slow them. Now you can either 2 and escape, which means you didn't burst them down a lot, or you can use your 2 to continue doing damage, and then you don't have an escape at that point. And that's pretty hard to deal with, because then you're using your Powwow as an escape, and it's less than optimal, to be 100% honest. So she does have that kind of like get in and have to get a kill kind of mentality. Same with Najah, like an all-in kind of character, except unlike Najah, it takes a bit longer for her to kill gods, which really negatively affects her. However, she still got damage and should never be underestimated. I just doubt she'll be seeing too much play. Next up is Erlong Shen. Surprisingly, he's rising a bit even after some nerfs. He's been rising a bit in the meta. His Mink form is really strong. Isn't it? Yeah, it's his Mink form. Allows him to clear really aggressively early levels, especially. Um, his turtle form has a knockup. He's got a root. He's got a taunt. He's got 3 forms of CC in his kit. Also a warrior, so he's really tanky. Not to mention his ultimate really allows him to outbox most opponents because that heal is monstrous. That heal can never be underestimated. He's just really strong in that sense, and thus he's picked up a lot. And do not be surprised if he's picked against you or on your team. Next is Fafnir. Fafnir's a strong guardian currently. I think one of the strongest, if not the strongest guardian. The way Fafnir makes it, the reason he's strong is because of his second ability, his course. That just really allows him to excel over other guardians because no other guardian has anything similar to this. It also allows him to have one of the best objective damage for a guardian because the course increases attack speed by 50%, and if you're in draconic form, that's a 50% increase for all allies, including yourself. So you're going to be bursting down FG, you're going to be bursting down Gold Fury, you're going to be bursting down towers in a matter of seconds. You're shredding those things. And his CC is also pretty decent. The only issue I have when I play Fafnir is that, first of all, I can't hit the hammer because I'm bad. But in reality, it's just like the mana issues are kind of prevalent. But other than that, he's just a strong, strong guardian. And really should not be taken lightly. Next up is Fenrir. Fenrir, I think the reason he's not doing well right now, or not doing as well as he used to, is because, one, no longer Ratatoskr's no longer super dominant, so a Ratatoskr counter won't be super dominant. However, Rat is pretty strong. That's a side note. But also because any of his clear abilities are like mobility abilities. So let's say, for example, his take is 3. You have to hit 5 basics to make that 3 like an AoE. So you have to hit 5 basics, meaning you have to be close to wave, allowing the enemy to poke you and stuff. Or you could get your leap first, which means you have to leap into the wave, which is just as risky, and thus risk your life through that. But then again, Fenrir is always going to be pretty strong because of the ultimate, because of the CC. His early game is absurd, so just his level 1 wave clear is a little bit risky. That's about it. Freya's pretty strong, like Kronos. She's a basic attack mage. She can hyper carry really well. Her ultimate's her only escape, however, so once that's burned, she's basically a sitting duck, and thus should be camped as soon as that occurs, and that's why she's not played as often as she used to be. Ganesh is a really strong guardian. Up there with the ranks of Fafnir and Athena, specifically Fafnir, because these two are competing to be the best guardian. Ganesh is strong. His CC is absurd. None of it really, I mean, besides his slow, gets affected by diminishing returns. A knockup cannot get affected by diminishing returns. His 2 is channeling CC, which means like, it's like you can never reduce the duration because the duration is coming from him, not to you, because diminishing returns doesn't affect that CC. It's absurd. 1.8 second silence is wild. He's silencing for a long time. You're not going to be able to do anything for 1.8 seconds. Plus his 3, which let's just say it's like 1.2 seconds-ish. That's a lot of lockdown. Not only that, but his ultimate basically shuts down anything that doesn't have a leap. And that is also really threatening. His ultimate is one of the better Guardian ultimates when it comes to setting up things, because not only does it like persuade enemies to stay in a certain area, but it also, if they choose to leave, they're slowed by like 35%, and they also have their protections reduced. That's not only that, but it does a massive amount of damage if they're caught on the edge. So if a Ganesh player were to catch someone on the edge on the ultimate, they're as good as dead. His farming is also really strong because of his passive. Just all around a really strong guardian, and would not be surprised to see some nerfs on him, but him and Fafnir are competing to be the best guardian. I mean, other than Ardio, of course, but next up is Geb. Geb is here. Geb is clear. He's pretty strong. I don't know where to put him. He's definitely, I think he's better than A+, just because Although not as good as Fafnir or Ganesh, he's still really strong. His shield, I think, is one of his defining factors. His shield really allows him to peel for allies. Not only that, but it cleanses, and also he's got a knock up, a slow, and a stun. And that AoE stun really can set up a lot of things, and thus he's going to be in a S minus. Next is Guan. We went from a bunch of really good gods to, Guan. Guan is not doing too hot right now. He is kind of struggling in the current meta. His early game is mediocre. His late game is pretty decent with the team fight. However, his heal is really weird in the way it functions and how you need stacks on your passive for it to be a good heal or even a decent functioning heal. It's kind of bad for Guan because his clear is interruptible. He doesn't have early pressure. His late game is mediocre because other warriors can do what he does but better, like Amaterasu, for example. His only factor that draws people in to play him over other warriors is the fact that he can heal allies, but even that is it's not even the best heal, to be honest. So it's not surprising that he's not too high up. But speaking of high up, Hachiman, he's pretty high up, my dude. Hachiman is really strong right now. He just kind of really hurts. The crit on him really affects opponents really negatively. He just crits people to death from massive ranges. He's like Thoth in that sense. His ability to clear jungle is also super cool because not only say in this hypothetical situation you're a Hachiman who got Bumbas in Bluestone. So you would get increased damage on your 2 because you're going to get your 2 on the wave on the camp because of Bumbas, and not only that, but you get increased attack speed so that your Bumba's true damage is proccing more often. That's a lot of clear. Not only that, but the banner affects all allies. So his objective is like Fafnir's, not as strong as Fafnir's too, but his objective steal and not steal. His objective damage is really strong because of it. Hachiman, his poke is absurd. He's a pretty safe hunter with his ultimate and his dash. Like I said before, his first ability really can hurt a lot, especially late game when it crits. So yeah, not much more to say about him. Let's go on to Hades. Hades is pretty interesting. He's a little bit bulky. He's got good CC. The only issue is he's predictable. And he's easy to kill because he's predictable. So when he leaps in, you can expect one of two things. He's either going to immediately detonate for some reason, or he's going to, usually, this is more likely, he's going to use his second ability to fear you, and then he's going to detonate. So if you have a god that has a CC or a dash, you could just literally, as soon as he leaps in, you just CC him or just leap or dash away, and then you blow him up from there because he doesn't have a leap anymore, and then he really can't do much. His heal is really strong in the landing phase. However, it's a lot harder to get the full heal effect when there are no minions around. So he's decent. It's just kind of hard to use him without getting blown up. Habois is pretty cool. He's watery, bro. The thing with Habois is that he has no mobility. He has very low mobility. His carpet's cool though, but his damage is pretty high. He might drop though because High Diversion recently did get nerfed, and thus Habois technically did get a nerf. But he so far he's putting the A tier ish ranking, just because his damage is absurd. It's completely absurd. People joke about him having 3 ultimates all the time, but yes, he really kind of does. His poke is really strong, and his clear is pretty strong as well. The biggest issue is the risk factor, the risk reward of Habois. You're risking a lot of deaths because you have no mobility, but your reward is insane amounts of damage. Next up is Hel. Hel's actually not as super strong as she used to be, probably because of the multiple nerfs on her abilities. She's still got the utility. She requires And I'm not even gonna put her in A plus. She's an A now. She's cool. She's got a lot of utility. She's got some poke. However, in the support role especially, it's harder for her to do things because anti-healing's a thing as always, and a lot of her kit just got nerfed. Her heal got nerfed. I think her 3 specifically, the movement speed about it. Her 1's radius on her dark stance got nerfed, so her poke got hindered quite heavily. Her damage in general, I think, got nerfed, so she just kind of got nerfed into multiple places, and it really hurt her. But she's still pretty strong. You can play her. It just requires a little bit of a team built around her. Next up is Hercules. Hercules is pretty strong in my opinion. The way he does Hercules things is cool. Thorns did get nerfed, and Hercules loved Thorns because being able to reflect half of the damage or something like that to the opponents is pretty fun for Hercules because not only is he reflecting half the damage, he's healing it back up, 90% of it at least. So really strong with Thorns. He might drop a bit because Thorns got nerfed, but I doubt he'd drop a full tier. His lane clear is pretty strong. He's a pretty strong lane bully. His CC is really nice. Like I said before, his heal is really good. So really pretty strong god right now. Next up we have Hou Yi. Excuse me. Okay, so Hou Yi is really strong right now. One of the better ADCs because of his bounces and the way he can outbox almost any hunter because of it. A good Hou Yi that ricochets properly can outbox almost any hunter. He doesn't even need an attack speed steroid because the stuns, the amount of CC that the mark and the ricochet gives, it's just really strong. His clear is really strong. Really hard to fight into a Hou Yi, and thus because of it, he's gonna be an S minus. Next up is Hunbat. Not played too often, however, in my opinion, a little bit underrated. His ultimate is his ultimate. It's one of the better ultimates in the game. A 2-second, I think, at max rank fear in a large AO area is really strong. The only issue is the rest of his kit is mediocre at best. But that doesn't change the fact that although the rest of his kit is mediocre, his ultimate's one of the strongest ultimates in the game. Like, really one of the strongest. Next up is Isis. Isis, the good old days of Season 2 when she was played almost all the time. Now she's not really played almost all the time. In fact, she's rarely played. Isis is strong. She's got the ultimate to do objectives. The issue with Isis really seems that there's other mage picks that are just better in whatever sense you're going for, really. Her early game clear is one of the better ones. However, like, other mages, although not as good of an early game clear, have better late games than she does, so thus just work better than she does. But, you know, she can be played, and she's pretty good. Just not nearly as good as some of the other mages that we're going to mention later. Cough, Raijin, cough, you know? Izanami. Izanami is another pretty strong hunter, in my opinion. Got nerfed a bit. That might affect her, but in my opinion, still a really strong hunter. She's a little bit of the weaker end of these hunters. She's not as strong as Hachiman or Hou Yi, but she's still pretty good. Her clear, unsurprisingly enough, is super dominant. She clears really nicely with her piercing basics. Her attack speed steroid is one of the best in the game, 75% if I'm not mistaken. She's got a slow, her ult comes off faster, and so does her dash. So that means she's one of the safer hunters. Not only that, but she clears really well. So a safe hunter that clears well and is late game is just a recipe for a lot of issues when you're playing against her. And that's why she's going to be in the S- tier. Next up is Yanis. Yanis is cool. He's got portals, and that's what Yanis has, and that's what Yanis is going to always have. His global presence is pretty strong. His damage late game is strong. His issue, however, is the early game, and that's why he's not going to be any higher on this tier list. But he is strong when once you get past that early game hump, and you get your power items going, you start stacking, you get the CDR so you can spam your abilities, you know, just Yanis things, right? Next up is Jingwei. I recently in ranked countered a pretty interesting Jingwei strat where you would just you would utilize the passive immensely, and that really got me thinking that Jingwei is pretty good. Her passive just allows you to get so much interesting like farm ideas in. Her passive allows her to farm really efficiently. Not only that, but it allows her to like box more frequently as well, if you know what I'm saying, because it's a less of a issue for her to back to base. The issue really with her is her lane clear isn't too hot. She has no large line ability. She just kind of has some small AoEs, and because of that, she kind of doesn't have too much lane clear. However, she's super safe, and she always will be, and her farming is really strong. So she's going to be an A+. Kali. She requires that early kill, and if not, she requires a lot of farming. So if she gets that early kill, she's going to snowball hard. If she doesn't, she's going to require a lot of farming, so that her late game is like Kali late game. That's the biggest issue, is that pretty heavy reliance on an early kill that is pretty easy to get, because Kali's early game is nothing like with Bluestone. The Lash does a lot of damage. It's just like, can you get that kill? Can you? And she relies on a couple of items very heavily, and that's never good for a god. Khepri is next. He is strong, but not nearly as strong as these other fine guardians we have up top. He currently is seeing a lower... This is like one of the lower times of Khepri. The biggest issue is the amount of CC that other guardians have, and thus completely shutting down his ultimate. However, his ultimate, don't even get me started on that thing. It's one of the better guardian ultimates, completely negating the effect of one of the best CCs in the game, Death. It completely negates that if timed correctly, which is really strong. Allows you to play super aggressive too, which means you can exert a lot of pressure. Not only that, but Khepri's second ability allows for good clear, allowing her for more pressure. It's just, he's a very pressure heavy god with good amount of peel. However, his team fight, when it comes to team fight CC or multi enemy lockdown, relies completely on his third ability, which isn't even that big to begin with. But he's still a really strong guardian. Probably might want to think of getting another guardian on your team if you're gonna have a Khepri, just to have a secondary frontliner to help him out. Next up is Kukulkan. Kukulkan is pretty good, in my opinion. His slow is strong. His ult's very strong. You just gotta hit these abilities. His second ability is a pseudo escape, like Habua's second ability. It allows him to slip in and slip out like a little slippery serpent he is. But yeah, I think he's decent. His lane clear is strong. He's safe. You know, as safe as a god without mobility can be. That is, but like, he's nowhere near the best. He's lower end of A tier, in my opinion, because he has no escape. Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna might see a rise. I'm not gonna lie. Kumbhakarna might see a rise because of his ultimate buff, and because of that, I'm gonna put him in A+. If you do not know, Kumba's ultimate is now always on a 75-second cooldown, meaning that you're always technically gonna have 2.2 seconds where you are incapable of doing any action, which is really strong when you think about it in a team fight. So for 2.2 seconds, a hunter would be incapable of firing basics, a mage would be incapable of using abilities, a guardian would be incapable of using any sort of CC for 2.2 seconds. That's a lot. That's a lot of time in a team fight. And because of that, that ultimate's gonna hinder opponents a lot, especially since it's single target, so his early game is gonna be super strong in that sense. The biggest issue with Kumba, like it's always been, is the fact that his clear is on his dashing ability. Next is Loki. Don't play this god. He's garbage. Please stop. Just not much more to add to Loki. He's bad. Don't play him. No one likes you when you play Loki. It's just a thing you should know at this point. Next up is Medusa. She's pretty strong in my opinion. She's got a lot of clear, good amount of clear. Her ultimate's always going to be really strong. One of the better hunter ultimates, especially when it comes to team fighting. She's very, I guess versatile is the word to use. She can be both ability-based and basic attack-based, and, yeah, it's Medusa. What more do you want from a hunter, to be honest? Mercury is cool. He's on the higher end of A, It's hard to use Mercury because he relies on crit a lot, and although crit is cheaper, it's still pretty hard to get. So you have to do a lot of farming. It's not the best. He's better than Kali in my opinion, but because he's got more CC, but you know, he's not super OP amazing. But he does have the semi-global ultimate, which always needs to be taken into account. Next up is Naja. Naja is better dodgy in my opinion. Similar to Kumba ult, his ult also takes an enemy out of the fight. However, unlike Kumba, he also takes himself out of the fights for a bit. So this can be both good and bad. He's not taking damage for those seconds, but he's also not doing other things, you know. But he is, again, taking an enemy out of the fight. He's doing a lot of damage. Unlike Daji, he's got a lot more damage because he uses crits more often. His ring bounce is a lot poke. He's got a lot more poke than Daji. And he's just better Daji in my opinion. He's not too amazing though. He's on the lower end of A+ because he is an all-in character. And those are rarely that like super amazing because they are all in. Either you get a 1-for-1, 2-for-1 trade, or you lost, really. And that's basically the general thing with all in characters. You have to get at least that 1-for-1 trade, or you're not doing your job properly. Next up is Neith. It's Neith. She hasn't been good for years. She's not bad. She's not as bad as these gods because she's got an escape. However, escape is pretty telegraphed. The best part about her, however, is her ultimate. The fact that it is global and cannot miss is really strong. It's also a stun, so she can set up kills from all the way across the map. Not only that, but her 2-second root can help her in boxing. So her clear is always going to be strong. It's just like not much of a reason to pick her over some other hunters like Izanami, for example. Next up is Nemesis. Nemesis is a really strong jungler, if not the strongest jungler. Her ultimate allows her to really sink her teeth into the tankier characters on the enemy team. And since bruiser builds are kind of relevant, it's a lot easier for her to get things done with her ultimate. Her ultimate does a lot of damage, not too much damage, but it like has the potential to do a lot of damage because of the protection reduction, the protection steal. Her 2 got a base damage buff a while back, and because of that, it just does a lot of damage all game, really. Her 2 also slows for a high amount, so it allows her to stick on targets. Her passive works really nicely. She's just all around pretty strong, especially when it comes to 1v1 boxing. Next up is Nike. Not as strong, to be 100% honest. Her passive is her best thing, along with her ultimate. Her ultimate's like a worse Erlong ultimate in a sense. Sure, it gives her probably a bigger health shield than Erlong ultimate. However, it doesn't permanently heal her. Her leap, it's like slow Bacchus leap, so it's decent, I guess. Her first ability is meh, really, to be 100% honest. And her second ability really makes these all of these meh abilities to like actual like abilities that could compete. However, you do need to use 2 abilities to make all these meh abilities a little bit above average, which is really not that great for her god. Her passive, like I said, is the best part about her because it is a global passive. However, you know, you have to get those stacks through. You have to get to late game. She's like Amaterasu, but worse in that sense. She's Amaterasu and Erlang combined, however, a worse version of both. So, really not too much of a reason to play her. Nox is the next god on the list, and Nox is an A-tier god. Her damage reduction on her ultimate is nice. It's a short cooldown, 75 seconds if I'm not mistaken. Her combo is damaging if you can hit it. If you can't, it's a little bit punishing because you're not going to really ever do any damage if you miss the combo, because her silence is only a silence. It doesn't hinder movement in any way, and because of that, it's kind of hard for her to, you know, keep enemies in without rooting them. But if she does root it, it's a lot of damage. Nuwa, fairly similar thing with Nox. You either hit the combo and you do a lot of damage, or you miss the combo and you don't really do any damage. But Nuwa having the ability to target her minions helps her a lot because minion AI is garbage. Hot trash. Her early game ultimates are really only useful for the vision. Her late game ultimates, however, have some damage and thus can finish things off. finish people off if need be. Her combo, if done correctly, can reach staggering amounts of damage. However, those are fairly rare because the minions won't line up properly or whatever. But, if they do line up properly, you're going to chunk people. Her fog is not the best escape because it's fairly predictable because you're either in that fog and the enemy knows you're somewhere in that fog but not exactly where, or you're not in that fog and the enemy knows exactly where you are. It's kind of hard. Her best escape is her ultimate, which is on a fairly long cooldown because it is global. But, it's Nuwa. She's pretty strong. Her passive is root, so can't be too bad. Odin has that ring. That ring is pretty strong when it comes to countering hunters and healing, so he's a really good counter pick. He's an okay, just regular pick. He's not as good as he used to be in jungle because of the damage nerfs he's received. However, he's still pretty strong. He can still do things quite nicely. The bird bomb combo still does a decent amount of damage and should not be slept on. Next up is Osiris. Osiris is really strong right now. One of the stronger solo laners. He's got an especially good matchup against Erlang and Wukong. Because of this, he's really strong. He gets free damage mitigation through his passive. His cleave allows him to sustain decently and also clear decently. His bully potential is through the roof with his first and second ability. He's all in all just a really strong god. Next up is Poseidon. Poseidon got buffed recently, so he's almost A+ in my opinion. He's not going to be A+ just yet. We'll see, because Aegis still hard counters the god, but he's still pretty high up there. Gem of Isolation and Poseidon go really well together. It's just a little bit hard because Gem of Isolation is pretty expensive and doesn't have the most power. However, these two gods, Poseidon got a movement speed increase, so he might come up in popularity due to the fact that his passive gives him more movement speed, so we'll see about that. Next up is Ra. Ra is pretty strong right now, especially due to the healing he gets. The heal allows him to be a presence as a mage that makes him different compared to other mages. His ultimate just does a lot of damage and has long range. His one is great clear, one of the better mage clears, and that's probably why you would pick him, along with the heal and the ultimate. So, yeah, there's Ra. Next up is Raijin. Raijin is really, I don't know why. Okay, so let me break this down. They made Raijin from a really strong god, Season 2. They made him really strong. They nerfed him, they toned him down a bit, and then they removed Power Pot. That's the biggest hit Raijin took in a while. And then, basically, from there, he wasn't that great. They decided, hey, since he's not that great, let's change his kit. They changed his kit. He was still lackluster, so they buffed his numbers a bit, and then he was strong. And then they decided to buff him even more after he was like S-, A+. Really kind of confusing me on that front. They decreased the amount of time it takes for his 2 to move to a target. So there's that. You're going to be bursting people down quicker because the thing doesn't take nearly as long as he used to. His leap, it's really weird because he is no longer rooted when he's no longer rooted when leaping. So that means he can try to juke abilities while he's leaping, which is really kind of annoying to deal with, really. And his damage is absurd like always. So I don't really understand why they buffed him so hard without like some more damage nerfs to compensate, but yeah, and they did, and now he's one of the best, if not the best mage in the game. So what are you going to do about it? Rom is pretty strong. He's got the basic attacks. He does well with the Devos build. He's got the ultimate to snipe people. All around, just the staple hunter, really. He does what a hunter does, and he's got the things to do it. Next up is Ratatoskr. Ratatoskr is really strong right now. The way he plays allows his early game to get really, really snowbally. Not only that, but his ability to build Bruiser is always there, and because of that, it makes him pretty strong. He's got better boots as an item, so you're fighting a Ratatoskr, he's always gonna have your boots but better. So there's always that to think about. And all around, just a really strong jungler. His CC is nice, his mobility is nice. He's got the global ultimate, or semi-global ultimate, I should say, allowing him to get some somewhat surprising ganks if they didn't ward correctly. Just a really strong god. Next up is Robin. Robin's pretty strong. Bruiser junglers are pretty strong right now, and because of that, he's pretty strong. He's not as strong as he used to be, but he's still pretty strong and should not be slept on, is what I'm trying to say. His early game is really strong. Really powerful early game. Scylla's got a good late game burst. Her early game's pretty good, actually, because, you know, they buffed her a while back, like a long time ago. They buffed her early game damage, and now she does a lot of late game damage and some pretty decent early game damage. Her crush, unlike Nox's Siphon Darkness, has a slow attached to it, so it's really not as hard to miss it, and not that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's almost like double the radius of Nox's thing. So may not be double, but like increase in radius definitely there. Yeah, Scylla's just really strong with her burst. People say it all the time, her ultimate can change the team fight, and it's really not wrong. Her ultimate can change the team fight. Serket is interesting in the way that she is really strong right now. Haven't seen too much Serket, however, but in my opinion, she's really strong because of the way she plays. Her CC is good. She shuts down healing completely with her ultimate. She has true damage in her kit. Her damage output is really nice with crits working on her one. So, and she's also super mobile. So there's really nothing too bad with Serket, to be honest. Other than she's a little bit more confusing when it comes to kits. Next up is Scotty, and it joys me to say that she's not good as she used to be. Oh, yes, I hate this god. Scotty, she can do things, but her damage numbers have been decreased, Calder's damage numbers in particular. Her ice rink, meaning her safety, has been hindered a bit, and thus, she's kind of like not as good as before. She's still pretty strong because of her dog and the way she can box, but not as strong as before. So, just gonna drop down a bit. Next up is Sobek. Sobek is pretty good, not gonna lie. His pluck, really early game especially, is scary. The pluck is really scary early game. Late game it's also pretty scary, but early game it's definitely really scary, especially as Guardian, because you have no beads, you have no protections, so you're a big target to hit. Sobek can scoop you into his team, and you were blown away. Another thing with Sobek is he's got anti-heal built in, he's got good CC, good peel, and all in all, a pretty strong warrior guardian. Next up is Soul. Like these other two basic attack mages, she's going to be joining them in the A+ tier. Her passive's really strong. Her 2 does a lot of damage. Her ult does a lot of damage. So, yeah, she's pretty good there in that sense. Next up is Wukong, Sun Wukong. He gets that lane pressure really nicely with his cudgel and stuff. His poke is also good because of it. His CC is not that bad actually with the slow and shits. So yeah, all in all, a pretty strong god. Not gonna lie. His clear is great. His he's really safe in lane. He can bully out opponents really nicely. So yeah, it's Wukong, my dude. Next up is Susanoo. Susanoo has seen better days, but he's also seen worse days. It's kind of interesting. He's kind of like Raijin, except not as like fluctuative, if that makes sense. Susanoo, his damage output is really strong against squishy targets. However, squishy targets are becoming more and more rare with the bruiser meta. His CC is really cool. He's got a knock up. He's got a knock. He's got a pull. So he's got nice CC there. His mobility is really nice. His damage against squishies, like I said before, is good. Just a pretty good god. Just like kind of suffers in this bruiser meta because he's not really good at building bruiser. Next up is Sylvanas. He's got no mobility. He's got the heal though, just no mobility to back it up, and thus he's not gonna be as good as some other guardians. However, he's still pretty strong. He's got that nice area of effect knock up. His heal, like I said before, makes him stand out amongst other guardians. And yeah, he's pretty good. Not the best, but pretty good. Next up is Terra, isn't it? Yeah. Terra took quite a hit a while back, and because of it, she's not nearly as good as she used to be. I'm gonna put her in A+. She might be an A tier god, but I put her in A+ simply because her global ultimate is global, so she has no presence anywhere in the map, and also the fact that her passive makes her immune to a complete type of CC, so it's really strong in that sense. The only issue is her monolith kind of doesn't do much when it comes to CC, so you're going to be relying on the 2 a lot more. Next up is Thanatos. Thanatos is pretty strong right now as well. His execute provides a lot to his team because it allows him to take out tankier targets, and more targets are becoming tankier now. And his early game is just like, it's Thanatos' early game. It's one of the staple SMITE early game gods, and of course is going to be really strong. Next up is Morgan. Morgan can transform into other gods, so technically she's really the best god of the game because she can transform into the best god of the game, Kuzenbo. But on a serious note, Morgan has a good amount of damage. She's pretty safe because of her invisibility, although not the safest. She's decently safe. She's hard to play, however, so it's kind of... It takes a lot of skill to play her, and because of that, it's hard to, like, play her in ranked a lot. Another thing with Morgan is that her damage is... Her 1 is a close proximity based ability. You have to be pretty close to the opponent, and to hit it more accurate, you have to be closer. But her 2 is really nice poke, so there's that. It's just a strong god in general, so nothing to sneeze at. Thor! Thor is pretty good. It's Thor. He's Thor. He's never going to be bad, I don't think. There'll be times where he's not as good as before, but there won't be a time when he's bad. He's Thor. Just a little bit outclassed by Ratatoskr in every sense right now, but, he's still got things that Ratatoskr has: the global ultimate, the damage, the ability to go bruiser. Just none of that is as good as Ratatoskr, however, it's still pretty strong. Thoth will be in the A+ tier as well. His range, his poke is really strong. His ultimate, I think, technically got a damage buff or something. I think, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, just all in all, pretty strong. Mage, his early game, his level 1 through like 7 is his biggest issue, but once he starts insta-clearing wave with his 1, there's really no issue. Tyr is lesser Hercules in a sense. Because of that, I'm going to be putting him in the A tier. Ha, get it? Tyr. The thing with Tyr is that he does what Hercules does, just a little bit worse. Although, in my opinion, Tyr's ultimate is better. Unlike Hercules, Tyr needs enemies to heal. Tyr's push is a lot more... not going to say obvious, but a lot more, like... How do you say it? You can, like, tell it's coming, basically. So, because he's going to try to position himself, or he's going to blink, and you're going to hear the blink go through. Tyr also uses... It's just, like, his kit kind of is like Hercules' kit, just not as good. Because Hercules has a heal and the pull at the same time. Tyr has to be in 2 different stances to do that. So, that does make his early game better, though. So, yeah. Next up is Ullr. Ullr is cool. He's an ability-based hunter, though, and those seem to not be doing as well as some of the basic attack-based hunters. Ullr is strong, though. Don't ever sleep on a good Ullr, because if they do the combo correctly, it's just really hard to deal with, to be 100% honest. The amount of burst that he can provide is great. Just not as good as some other hunters, Vomit. Vomit is, it's Vomit. I don't know what to say about him, other than he's got clear. Big baby, my dude. Big baby. Vulcan. Vulcan's a mage. He's got not the greatest clear early on, but later on his damage is pretty good. His knockup is strong. All of his abilities are on relatively low cooldowns, so that should be taken into consideration. His ultimate can really shake things up because it does a lot of damage, especially at longer ranges, so it can be really good at stealing objectives. It's also pretty just good at securing objectives if need be. Vulcan's pretty strong, he does things pretty nicely. Next up is Xbalanque. I don't know, he might see a uprise, but like right now it's not looking too great. He's still Shibalanka. He still has to get through that early game, but once he does get through that early game, it's always smooth sailing from there. Next up is Jing Chen. Jing Chen is cool. Jing Chen is cool. Doesn't see much play though, and there's a reason for that. It's just because his ultimate just takes really long to wind up. His ultimate is it's really hard to get a good ultimate as Jing Chen because half the time, as soon as you start winding up, people just leave, just dash, leave, whatever. And then you don't get really anything with that ultimate. If you are lucky, you might catch some beads, but that's at best. Next up is Ymir. Ymir is so good in almost every sense, except for the fact that he has no mobility and thus suffers greatly. Ymir is probably going to stay in this tier because he has no mobility. But his 2-second freeze is nothing to sneeze at. His clear is really strong with his ice carpet. His aggression is really good. So, just things to keep in mind. Because although he's not ranked as high, he can definitely put in a lot of work. Next up is Zeus. Zeus got buffed recently. That might move him up a bit. However, Height of Urchin did get nerfed, so it's kind of a trade-off. For those of you that don't know, his Aegis Assault, the shield, once you throw it out, will now proc a charge if hit by his first ability, Chain Lightning. So like you can throw out your shield and you can Chain Lightning, so it'll send out a shockwave, applying a charge to everyone. It'll basically do is increase the amount of clear he has. Not only that, but it'll also greatly increase the amount of burst he has. And that's the scary part, because if done correctly, the burst he gets is a lot. And thus he might rise in the meta because of that, because the amount of burst he would put in is a lot. But we'll see, we'll have to see. Next up is Zhang. That high nerf is going to hurt him, and thus he's going to be an A tier. He's got a lot of burst in his 1-2 combo. However, it's kind of like Zhang has no escape. Camp Zhang. Zhang doesn't do much late game. And that's about it. So, I guess I have to rank KUZENBO properly. I'd say he's an A+. I hate to say it, but in actuality, he is an A+. He's got the thorns. I think if you get thorns plus Hadanimi Lion plus Shell Spikes, he reflects like 90% of the damage he takes, which is absurd. His ultimate is good in solo, not in support. In solo, he's good. He's one of the few guardians I'll definitely say only play him in solo, really. His Sumo Slam is like, it's kind of like a tier dash. His 1 is decent clear. It can ricochet, so it's pretty good jungle clear. It's KUZENBO, but like his kit is a little bit better than it used to be. But that right there is the tier list. Tell me what you guys think of it. Tell me if you guys agree, disagree. You can disagree. I don't really care. You can agree. I don't really care. Just tell me what you guys think. And I hope you guys enjoyed.